Yeah, right. This guy doing things over there. I know when we first came back, they started because it was like a big thing. Yeah, right. But now we've been doing it for a while. Yeah. Is there a fair amount of downtime? Like, am I gonna want to sit or need to sit or to get out of the way? Or? No, you're not gonna be in the way. There's not like a. Well, a lot of it. There's like, I don't know, it's like the Christian minutes where there's like one part where the rabbi talks for a while about something. Yeah. And then everything else just kind of moves, kind of regular. Yeah. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. I can see what's going on. The Christian church, they would call it yes. I just don't want to be standing up while everybody else is sitting. She's like talking. Yeah, usually Aiden does sit down sometimes. Cool. So Carter was planning to note this weekend. My oldest son is now 14. He's a pretty good guitar player. He's high school. Yeah, wow. Composing and stuff. Oh wow, that's it. So I was like, oh man, his birthday's coming in. I was like, maybe I can get a chance to see Carter, guitar player. Maybe he's also. Oh, okay, yeah. Whatever. It's like Ron Carter. Like, he's gonna die soon. Like, if you're 14, you should be smart. Yeah, right. You can see that him, but things wrong. Wow. I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not on top of like going out. Yeah, right. I've actually been to a handful of shows with the band that she's been able to run. I'm like, saw Ron Miles, September, yeah. Right. They got some, and they're screening shows. Yeah, they really did a good job with it. I really can't deal with screening. I hate it. It's not like a professional as opposed to like stuff that's split. It's just like someone's logo. You can do it. You can do it, man. Run. Run. All right. We'll cover for you. Oh man, I looked for you. And I was sitting there eating my falafel. And I was like, I'm so early. There's so much time. That can happen, right? Well, I'll keep my ears open. Sometimes, yeah, you will tell on people because even though someone's like, why is this quick? Oh, why would I be? You've been here long enough, that's sort of how you argue with the issue. Yeah, you can't count on it though, or maybe they'll be like, you can live here, but we're gonna jack your rent. Yeah. I've actually told the realtor they're interested in us staying and keeping the rent. The same, and we said, for now, we do that. Yeah, well, you did, yeah. Right. One of them, right, is that we don't want to have to do situation. Yeah, you need a new lease. Yeah. Obviously. And then it's all forgot that. She's cool. So they're gonna come and talk. We don't know because they're jacking the interest rates up, right? So they've got inflation, so maybe they'll have a hard time selling. It's gonna be a lot harder for people to borrow large sums of money. Yeah. So it's particular levels. Yeah, since I last saw you, it was kind of right. Yeah, it was like just a couple days later. They show up on our door. The back part of it, they made this meeting. He's like, well, we got that one. We want to make sure that you guys are going to be here for 5 years, 10 years. We want you to get to the long term. Yeah, so I have 5 years at the same rate. Well, that's bad, right? You know, that's what we said. And then just like really work with these for a single year. And then this happened. But that was like the whole deal. So the man I was trying to beverage, so the beverage, let's see what some do. So yeah, why do you think I'm here? I play with Bruce Springsteen, and the point is, it's like, not tonight. No, I mean, we all have these games. I play with Vignon Ginsberg, French musician. I love Vignon. He had a hit video playing with his washing machine. Yes, he did. It's a great thing. I love Vignon. Great guy. You Springsteen together? Like with Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga. It's kind of cool, man. Like Josh Rice. Like we play with Josh Rice. Whatever. So we can just continue to do on a too. I know, that's what I was doing. 1 and 2. Play through the form. Here we go.
128 in your prayer book. These prayer books open from right to left. Look in the lower right corner, page 128 at the bottom. Shabbat Parah. 128 at the bottom.
Hi everyone on Zoom in the room. Oh, I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm the rabbinic intern here, and my name is Eliza. So earlier this week, I was reading about a debate that happened in the Reform movement in the 1980s. Right, and the debate was around Shabbat, and it was basically like, should we keep it? You know, the concern was that Shabbat services were not well attended, and it just conflicted with the broader society. People had scheduling conflicts. It was hard to get to services after work. And one rabbi took this debate pretty far. His name is Rabbi Alvin Reines. And he said that, okay, there is Shabbat, which is the seventh day, right, that we keep from Friday night to Saturday. And that idea, he suggested, was just outmoded for American Jews in 1980. And that instead of observing Shabbat as a day on which we do certain rituals and come together in a community, we should instead cultivate Shabbat as a state of mind and encourage congregants to think of Shabbat as a state of mind, one that was accessible anywhere at any time, right? So you could go on a week-long vacation and have a week-long Shabbat, or you could take a 20-minute break in your day and have a 20-minute Shabbat. And I know we laugh because for me there was some dissonance reading this. I thought Shabbat is not well attended. It's not spiritually inspiring and beautiful. That's really not been my experience at CBE. But I actually want to take a minute. You can keep playing, but I'm going to do a little bit. I want to ask us to think on both sides of this argument. Is there anyone for whom the Shabbat as a state of mind is actually compelling? And you know, whether maybe you wouldn't go all the way in that direction, but you can see an argument in favor of Shabbat as a state of mind. Yeah, a couple. Okay, we have a strong yes, and for what reason? What do you think?
To me, whatever day, time, place you practice Shabbat, you need to be in a certain state of mind to do it in a fulfilling way.
Okay, I totally agree, right? Like, we all know we could go through all of Shabbat a day and not ever experience Shabbat. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then what's an argument maybe for Shabbat on the seventh day?
Tradition.
Tradition! Yeah, That's a good argument. I think pretty strong. We have more ideas. Great.
We need the ritual sometimes to, force ourselves into it, even if we break the patterns of the week.
Yeah, totally. Mark.
It's a very important part of food, is the state of mind, and there are also certain things that I can only talk about certain things I will not do on Shabbos.
Yeah. So the people on Zoom, if you're not hearing this, is this idea that it's important to bracket out the time, and there are certain things maybe you would choose not to do. Yeah.
I think Shabbat is a good way of resisting a capitalist mindset where all of your time is scheduled for productivity of one kind or another. I think it's really important to me that Judaism have a tradition of bracketing out time for rest and acknowledging one's body and being in the work with God rather than rushing to do things. And I think making that space every week at a specific day and time means that it actually gets it's in there rather than being like, I will take 20 minutes because the 20 minutes gets lost.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, that was beautiful. You should all ask Hal one time for those thoughts because I don't want to summarize too much. Okay. Oh God, I like this. So we're gonna keep going. I'll shorten my sermon. Yeah.
I would make a case for having a combination of both.
Last comment. Okay.
It wasn't something you offered, but I think, in the spirit of tradition and what the Sabbath means to us historically is really important, but there's no reason that we can't carry those emotions and feelings and traditions throughout the week. And so if we want to take time throughout our week to reflect or to pray or to spend time with loved ones or whatever it might be, I can see the value in really incorporating that throughout our week as well.
Yeah, I love that. Lauren's suggesting a combo, right? And I agree. I think that if we were never anchored in this day with these rituals, with this community, it would be much harder for me personally to actually enter that state of mind. And when we do come together, like you're saying exactly, it becomes like it's a spiritual exercise that gives us that ability to pause, to maybe push back against the forces expecting us always to be productive, to find a sense of the state of mind of rest and of inner peace. And so I thank you all for being here because it really does help, I think, for each of us to facilitate the Shabbat state of mind when we are together on Shabbat. And we'll continue now with the next.
Page 130. In the lower right-hand corner, if you have two numbers, we'll be referring to the ones in brackets, just as the Shabbat brackets the rest of the week. Follow the numbers in brackets. Page 130. Yeshuato, Sapruva Goyim, Kevodo, Bechol Ha'amim Nifleotai, Yigadol Adonai, Ume'olam me'od, Norahu, Akol Elohim, ay, Kol Elohim, Ha'amim Elohim, Ba'adonai Shamayim Asah, Od Le'adav Le'fanav, Od Shvet Yimeh Be'mikdash, Yismechu Hashamayim V'tagei Haaretz, Yirah Hayam U'Meloh, Lo Sarai, Ve'volam Shelo, Aziranu, Kol Asei Lifnei Adonai, Hiva Lishpot Haaretz, Tishpotem Be'tzedek, Be'amim Be'emunato, Adonai Malach Tagel Haaretz, Yismechu Ibrahim, Adonai Rafel Sevivav, Tzedek u'mishpat ve'od tizor, Ohavei Adonai, Sineu Ra, Shomer nashot hasidav, miyad reshaim yatzilemo, Zaru al tzadik, u'yishlelem simcha, Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu lezechecho. 133, Vayimitzvot shiru l'Adonai, shir hadash, ki niflaot asa, Hoshiano yamido, Zohar shonio, Adonai Yeshuato, Ve'inei hagoyim gilat zikato, Zakar chasto ve'emunato, Lebeit Yisrael, Rabu kol asei haaretz, Et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Hariyol Adonai kol haaretz, Yisroel adenu, Ve'zameinu, Zamru Adonai lechino, v'kol zimra, Chatzon zero v'kol shofar, Hariyol lifnei Hamelech, Adonai Hayam U'Meloh, v'tefen v'yoseva, v'le'aron yitbarcha, v'yachad galim yeranenu, lifnei Adonai hiva, Lishpot haaretz, Yishpot hevel v'tzedek, Ve'amim be'mikshavim, Adonai, 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 The middle of 137. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ay, 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 ay. Shalom. Ay, 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 ay. Shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ay, 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 ay. Shalom. Ay, 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 ay. Shalom. Shalom, just our voices. Ay, 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 ay. Shalom. Ay, 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 ay. First part of our Kabbalat Shabbat is just this explosion of joy, sound. I don't know if you've noticed, but the trees in Park Slope this past week suddenly exploded. Not with sound, of course, but with color, with joy. These last moments of Kabbalat Shabbat are about us receiving that joy, about sitting with it, about noticing it, about breathing it in. So we take a few moments before continuing just to sit, to receive and to breathe these moments in. Chadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekalela. Chadodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat. 9. Bo'ir shalom ateret bala hay gam besimcha u'betzola toch emuneh am segulot boi chala לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת בקבלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת clap your hands לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת בקבלה לך דודי לקראת קהלה בני שבת בקבלה Page 140 at the bottom. Tzadikatzama yifrach ke'erez barbanot yizkeh Deshenim levanani
So earlier I was telling someone about this drash that I'm planning to share with you all. And after I talked through all the ideas and how I would develop them, he said, "Oh, it's like the hokey pokey." So that's a teaser, all right? Stick around if you want to figure out how Parshat Shmini is like the hokey pokey. Now we're going to talk about Leviticus, okay? So reading through the book of Leviticus, as I did again, this time around, I realized something that I hadn't realized before, I'll get there, okay? So we know that Aaron is the high priest, and that means that he's going to preside over all the rituals of the ancient Israelite religion that take place at this point in the Torah in the tabernacle, which is kind of is the precursor to the temple that the Israelites will do service to God in, and that service is sacrifices, mainly animal sacrifices, some like flour and oil sacrifices. Okay, so we know that about Aaron. That's pretty iconic about Aaron. But as I'm reading through Leviticus, I realized that even though we've talked a lot about sacrifices at this point, we haven't yet seen Aaron himself perform them, right? Because in the first parsha, in Vayikra, we got sort of God's, via Moses, verbal instructions for sacrifice. In the second parsha, in Tzav, Aaron was ordained as high priest. He was washed and dressed in the priestly garments, And there were a lot of sacrifices involved in the ordination, but Moses really does the main work of the offerings. And so then we've gotten to Shmini, and Aaron hasn't yet, but he will, right? He's called up to the altar in front of the whole congregation of Israel to perform sacrifices. And the whole community is assembled, right? So it's kind of like high stakes moment, and it's like his debut performance as high priest. And if that wasn't enough pressure already, right? Moses says, when you do as God commanded, God's presence, that kavod Adonai, will be revealed to you. And the you is in the plural. God's presence will be revealed to Aaron and Moses and every Israelite. If Aaron, fulfills his commandment of all of the offerings. Okay, so I'm feeling a little nervous for Aaron at this moment because I've gotten really invested in this drama. And then Aaron goes up to the altar and he starts to perform the sacrifices. And he does it exactly as he was instructed. Yeah, there's a sin offering and a burnt offering and a well-being sacrifice and a meal offering. And some of those happen multiple times. And each of them is a multi-step process. There's slaughtering animals and cutting them up and washing some parts and burning some parts in a fire. And there's a lot of dipping in blood and splattering the blood. And Aaron gets to the end of this whole sacrificial service and he lifts up his hands, and he blesses the congregation. And that's the problem. Because the next thing the Torah says is not that God's presence was revealed. So then, I have to find I'm just totally going off these notes on what I would like to get back to a little bit. Okay, so we have the problem. And then actually the Torah says something else, right? It says that Aaron went down from the altar and he and Moses went into the tent of meeting. And then they came out and they blessed the people, and then God's presence was revealed. So he pulls it off eventually, go Aaron. But that detail about the going down tent of meeting, remember, that's especially curious to us as readers, right? Because everything else about this ceremony was really specifically prescribed, but not that, right? There, Aaron and Moses seem to have gone off script. And therefore, it's an interesting moment for commentary, right? And Rashi asks a question, as Rashi often does. Rashi, in this case, asks, what happened in the tent of meeting? Why did they go there? What happened? Okay. Because it seems to be that's the turning point, right? That then leads to them coming out again with another blessing and God's presence. And whatever happened there is not explicit in the Torah, right? So we kind of have to fill it in. So this is one of the explanations that Rashi gives. It comes from a midrash, and it says, maybe when Aaron saw that he had performed all of the sacrifices correctly, and yet God was not present, Aaron was uneasy. And he says to himself, oh no, maybe God is mad at me. And then he looks to his brother Moses and he says, Moses, you put me up to this. And now I feel ashamed. So Moses goes with him into the tent of meeting and they offer up a prayer to God, right? And this time there are no animals, there's no blood, there's no fire. It's just a prayer from their hearts. And this is why God's presence is ultimately revealed. So let's build on Rashi's commentary a little bit, okay? I didn't want to claim that Rashi said all the things I thought he should say, so I figure I'll just be explicit. We're drashing on the midrash right now. Okay. I think that Aaron might have been so concerned with executing his task correctly that he forgot the real purpose of the sacrifices. The word sacrifice in Hebrew is korbanot. And, well, sacrifices, that's plural. So korban, right? And it comes from the root karev, which means to draw close. And when Aaron was simply going through the motions, he wasn't authentically present to the people, and he hasn't opened himself up in relationship to God. So although he performs the korbanot, he's actually remaining at a distance. And It's only after Aaron's moment of honesty and authenticity, first with himself, and then with his brother, and then with God in prayer, that Aaron merits for the divine presence to be revealed. Now, many of you, I think, will know this, that our prayer services that we do, they were instituted in the place of sacrifices after the destruction of the Second Temple, right? And these two systems of worship, the animal sacrifice and prayer, I would say at the surface, they seem to have very little to do with one another. I often think, like, how would you respond if I brought a calf in here and like a large knife, and a set of fire? I mean, they feel really different, right? And I'm not going to do that. And I know we have some vegetarians here, so I just apologize. And I brought you tofu, actually, for tonight. That's true. Okay. But I think that they have something in common, right? As with the sacrifices, there are a lot of guidelines in prayer, right? There are the words and the order of the service and the times that we sit and stand and bow. And these fixed elements are called the keva of the service. And those elements can be really helpful and important to cultivating a spiritual experience. I don't want to dismiss it. But I think that a lot of us have probably have some experiences like Aaron at times, where we become suddenly concerned with, are we on the right page, or are we doing the right thing and saying the right words, and we lose our place. And I think that focusing on these elements of the service, I know for myself personally, it can keep me in my head. Am I doing it right or wrong? And that is actually keeping me at an emotional distance from the prayer experience. In addition to the keva, those fixed aspects of prayer, we also have kavanah, right? Kavanah is the intention or that emotional and spiritual presence that we bring to prayer. In his 16th century book of Jewish law, Yosef Kara writes, "Better a few prayers spoken with kavanah, with intention, than many prayers without kavanah." It turns out that the purpose of prayer is very similar, I think, to the purpose of sacrifice: to draw close to ourselves, to one another, and to whatever it is we experience as or understand as divine, to God. Doing this requires that we put our whole selves into the experience. It's a hymn, a hokey pokey. Right? It does. It requires a whole self-experience. In the Talmud, Rabbi Ami says one's prayer is not accepted unless he places his heart in his hands. That sounds like a pretty powerful experience of prayer. And I know it's a lot to ask on any given Friday night to be fully, authentically present, to pray from like the deepest parts of ourselves. And it is a lot to ask, and it's probably won't come easily, at least not all of the time, right? It definitely doesn't come easily to me. But I think it's worth trying, especially because we're already here. Like, you chose to be here, which means that we have an opportunity, and we can give ourselves permission not to worry too much about the mechanics of prayer, but to imbue our prayers with a real intention, maybe even to hold a part of our heart out in our hands. Because ultimately, that is how we draw near, right? We draw close, not only in prayer, but in life, when we put our whole selves in, with all of the risk and vulnerability and energy that entails. We connect more deeply to ourselves, to each other, and maybe to a sense of the divine that is present in every moment. We get the most out of life when we put our whole selves in. After all, that's what it's all about. Shabbat Shalom.
We continue on page 144. If you're able, please rise. Please be seated, page 148.
Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila Mavdil ben yom u'ben laila Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayom Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ma'ari v'aravi
150.
Ahavat olam ben Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofteinu Uvkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha ונשפט בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו והם נגד יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך
154.
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך אתר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
So in Parshat Shmini, we go from the moment I discussed where Aaron is ordained as high priest and ultimately successfully performs the sacrifices and God's presence descends. We go from that very high moment right into the next segment of the portion, which actually discusses the deaths of Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu. It plummets pretty quickly into the depths of despair and loss. And I have a classmate at HUC his name is Isaac. He shared a piece that I thought got at this contrast really well. And so I asked him if I could share it with you. It's actually written by Magid Joss Singer. So Magid Singer writes, I love that one verse reveals something ugly and painful, and the next verse is sweetness and light. I love this because it's a true reflection of life as I know it. There are parts of life that are just plain horrible, and others that are pure, stunning beauty. And sometimes they go hand in hand. The Torah gives this over without flinching, with no sense of contradiction and with no apologies. The sweet and the bitter are marbled in the Torah, just as they are in real life. We're next going to pray Hashkivenu and then Mishaberach. These are our prayers for protection and healing. So if when it comes time, I encourage you in the Zoom to put names into the chat, and we'll also be able to take names in the middle of Mishaberach of anyone for whom you are wishing healing.
Page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim
ושמור צאתנו, ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ירושלים.
371.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו, may the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pray for healing for the following people. If you'd like to share a name, or you can hold one in your heart.
My dad did, and Dr. Shabbat Parah. Dan Schwartz. Alana Fishburne.
Miriam Forrest and Norman Miller. Karen Vaughn.
Jeffrey Ehrlich.
Mary Johnson. Sean Bowman. Matthew Burke. Lena Eichhorn.
Elizabeth Lovett. Heidi Smoke. Mark Russell.
Devlin Reed. Irene Blanchard, Ariel, Isaac, Diana.
Linda Simca. My grandmother, Carol Goldman. Arnold Bernstein, Marilyn Goldstein. Susie Mitchell. David Fresh.
We bring these names into our hearts and we wish each of them a refuah shlema, a complete healing.
מי שברך אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו, bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Turn back to page 162 for Vishamaru, to be followed by silent prayer from there to page 181. For now, we're on page 162, and if we're able, we rise. Page 178. This is a beautiful prayer, a beautiful melody, well known to many congregations throughout this country. We don't do it very often here at CBE. The reason is because it's one of those things that's so beautiful that if you do it too often, you might take its beauty and its poignancy for granted. So this is a very special prayer for peace, offered on a night when we need it more than most.
Shalom Ra, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra'ah Yisrael Amcha Tasir Le'olam Ki Ata Melech Adon Lecho Shalom Ki Ata Melech Adon Lecho Shalom Shalom Ra'ah Yisrael Amcha Tasir Le'olam Shalom Ra'ah Yisrael Amcha Tasir Le'olam וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Ra'ah Yisrael Amcha Tasir Le'olam Shalom Ra'ah Yisrael Amcha Tasir Le'olam
Tasir
Le'olam Tasir Le'olam
Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael. We continue on page 586 at the bottom. Aleinu l'shabeach. If we're able, we rise. Middle of 590. Ki ha-malchut shel-Hahi ule'olmei timloch v'kavod kan katuv v'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed va'enecha ve'haya Adonai le'melech ha'toret v'hayom ha'u yihye Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Please be seated. Everyone that is, except Molly Silberberg, member of our Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So first of all, thank you so much to our clergy, Cantor Josh Breitzer, rabbinic intern Eliza Scheffler, and cantorial intern Jordan Goldstein for leading us so beautifully this evening. Thank you as well to CBE staff, in particular Nate Jaffe, who is supporting in person this evening, and Stash Olshansky for providing sound and online support. And a special thank you as well to the CBE Jazz Quintet, our member Sam Barfield on violin, Michael Winograd on clarinet, Sean Moran on guitar, Paul Francis on percussion, and Kevin Thomas on bass. Shabbat morning services with the B'nai Mitzvah of Sophie Bernard and Noah Hamilton will take place at 9:30 tomorrow morning in the sanctuary and on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook Live, and our website. There are so many places that you can tune in. Shir LaShabbat with Debbie Bruckman for ages 0 to 5 is in Prospect Park by the Garfield entrance, unless of course it's raining, in which case it will be in the Temple House lobby. And for tonight, if you RSVP'd in advance for the Brooklyn Jews Shabbat dinner, please check in with Nate Jaffe at the entrance to the boardroom. Nate is in the back there. Wait, hello, Nate. If you didn't RSVP yet, you are still welcome to join. Please see Nate again at the entrance to the boardroom. All right, so believe it or not, it is almost time for Passover. Snuck up on me too, if anyone else is like, oh, I didn't quite realize we were there already. So we are hosting an engaging and creative community Seder for CBE members in our ballroom on the second night, Saturday, April 16th. There will be a fully catered dinner, special activities for the kids, and we are inviting our friends at Antioch Baptist Church to join us as well. So please do register for that in advance by visiting the Passover page on CBE's website. Finally, the CBE Community Retreat is back. Get away for the weekend with our clergy and the CBE community. That's going to be on Friday, April 29th through Sunday, May 1st. The retreat is a weekend of fun, relaxation, adventure, learning, campfire, and praying together in the Berkshires at URJ Eisner Camp in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Whether you sign up with a group of friends or come on your own to make new connections, you will surely have a great time. So check out the website for more details. And as always, there's a lot going on at CBE, so check the advisory, check the website. But in the meantime, Shabbat Shalom.
Jordan, you were a former head song leader at Eisner Camp, and you'll be there at the retreat. Can you tell us, for those who don't know Eisner as well as you do, what are some of the highlights of being at Eisner Camp?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked, Cantor Breitzer. Eisner Camp is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Rolling hills, great trees, a beautiful landscape, and also a great place for everyone to come together in these sort of campfire circles. And that is a plug again, that those campfire circles will be led by me. So you know the music will be good. The monks are also pretty new as well, so the amenities, quite nice. And if you're also curious about Eisner Camp, I'm going to embarrass Avital Abraham over here, who's visiting tonight, who's also a former head song leader of Eisner Camp. So if you got any questions about what that experience will be like, feel free to find me or Avital. Yes, I'm putting you on the spot to ask us about what Eisner is like. It's a beautiful, wonderful, magical place to be, and even more so with our community here.
Yes. And I hear that Brooklyn Jews are invited to go to this retreat. So if you're interested in that and you might want to meet other people who are interested in that, do come talk to me tonight at our dinner, which you should come to if you're not already. And so then I can connect people who might want to join the CB community retreat. Whew, okay. That's the end of announcements. We're gonna go back to our service and end with Mourner's Kaddish as we always do, and then some beautiful music. And there's one more point from our Torah portion this week. When Aaron's sons, Nadav and Abihu, die, Moses then says to Aaron, the whole community of Israel will weep for them, And actually, it's from this verse that we learn that there is a duty as Jews to join with the bereaved in the process of mourning. And one of the ways we can do that every week is by reciting Mourner's Kaddish together. We know this week there are so many we could weep for. There are those in our congregational family, those who have fallen in Ukraine and in conflicts around the world. And we want to add to these categories of people, anyone specifically who you are remembering. So if you're on Zoom, please write it in the chat, and so you can know those names. And if you're here and you'd like to share a name, if you're in the first week of mourning in Shiva, you may rise and share a name if you'd like. And if you're in Shloshim, And if you're in Shloshim, the first 30 days after the death of a loved one, you can rise and share a name. And if you're in Shana, the first year after the death of a loved one.
My wife, Rosalie Lovett. Her uncle, Yale Hirsch.
And if you're observing a yard site and you'd like to share a name, please do. And for all these people, we will join with our mourners in reciting Mourner's Kaddish. It's on page 598. Oh, thank you. And so we'll add to these names the yardzites from the CBE community. Well, first it's in Shloshim in the last 30 days. Bernard Jeff Jeffrey, father of Peter and Nancy Jeffrey, father-in-law of Carla Weiss and Daniel Cohen, and grandfather of Kate, Ilana, and Jessica. Ethel Wiseman, grandmother of Brian Ezra. Florence Kasakov, mother of David Kasakov, mother-in-law of Yael Kasakov, and grandmother of Sophie. Dr. David Rabia, father of Naomi Rabia, father-in-law of David Goldberg, and grandfather of Martin. And though the burial has not yet taken place, we are thinking of Judith Parker, our member and wife of Stuart Parker, and mother of Sarah Green and Ned Parker. The burial will be on March 28th. And the yardzites we observe today as a community are for Bernard Alperstein, Jana Alova, Blanche Barr Stern, Janet Barnett, Fanny Barron, Louis Beacon, Helen Boley, Stephen Brenner, Sadie Brown, Susan Buxbaum, Sam Coburn, Leon Cohen, Leah Davidson, Solomon Eisen, Rhoda May Elevitz, Edward Ezrall, Louis Feldenkris, Hilda Feldman, Louis Fishman, Ron Glansman, Max Goldfarb, Norton Greenberger, Ruth Grossman, Susti Jaikaran, Rose Kaufman, Robert Krell, Arnold Leopold, Sadie Levine, Oscar Lewis, David Marciano, Adolf Meyer, Arnold Messing, Bert Neigler, Bernard Newman, Molly Nightingale, Norman Ox, Jack Oppenberg, Charles Pollock, Rebecca Reich, Nina Reingold, Henry Rudberg, Melanie Scheinberg, Regina Schiff Garowitz, Sophie Shapiro, Leo Shear, William Shore, Harry Smallberg, Hirsch Stein, Harriet Swade, Abraham von Ralt, and Abraham von Ruyen. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598, and I will grab my Siddur. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach ru'uteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon, v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah barach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace over us and over all who mourn. And we say, amen.
Page 625.
Adon olam, Hashem alav, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'et nasa v'chesor kol, azay melech shemo nikra, ve'acharei kivot
In the lobby for Kiddush, that way or this way. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Zoom friends. Feel free to unmute. Shabbat Shalom, Jules and Julianne. Shabbat Shalom, Linda. Shabbat Shalom, Gina and Jeff. And Joy, exclamation. And Danielle, Shabbat Shalom. And Kit, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Take care.
Shabbat Shalom, Barbara.
Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful.
Shabbat Shalom, Martha and Erwin.
Had their audio.
The audio's off.
Yeah, it's been off the whole time. Just us left, Barbara.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow then.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Glad to see smiling face. You too. Very good.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom. Nobody left in there. That's it. Leaving us on, but nobody's there. It's only me, Martha's wishes on the audio. And that's it. Nobody else left here anymore. Okay, I can leave. We're gone.